What's going on, everybody? This is Darian. You clicked the thumbnail, you saw the title of the video, you clicked, you were curious. Thank you if you're watching just to support the channel, but also if you like things like this, go ahead and consider subscribing. So today we're going to be talking about Naval Aircrewman, and more specifically we're going to be talking about the air rescue community within the Naval Aircrew community. So an even smaller group of a smaller group within a much smaller group within a small group. That goes from air rescue to air crew to Navy to military. So we're already a very small group of people, so much so that no matter where you go, there's going to be somebody you know in that location or a friend of a friend. We're a very, very, very small group. As a matter of fact, I think there are less of us than there are all the other famous dudes that make movies and stuff about whatever ops they go on. And so I mean, that's not a bash against them. I personally don't give a damn what they think about it. I'm just saying they think they're a small group and we're actually even much smaller. But enough about that. I just kind of want to give some context because everybody thinks like, there's only a small group of people in every community, and there is. So, but some groups may have a smaller amount, right? And mine is one of those. So once again, you saw the thumbnail. You saw those nice, beautiful gold wings right here, and those wings mean something to a lot of us, and to others it's just a piece of metal that we wear on our chest or embroidered on a flight suit patch or something like that. But to me it was like a video game when you were a kid, right? And you're playing it and you got to fight to get that one thing. These wings for me was that thing, and I'll kind of briefly talk about that. So in case you don't know, I don't know if I've even done this on my channel and had a quick sit down heart to heart about the job and why I did it and why I stayed in it for as long as I have. But here it goes. So October 2nd, 2001, 3 weeks after 9/11, I went to boot camp. Now I had already joined the military August 14th, 3 days after my birthday, which was the 11th of August, literally a month before the attack. I joined the Navy because I was already planning on joining the military. We got attacked, and then I've shipped off to boot camp 3 weeks later. A lot of people think I had some big, patriotic reason after 9/11 because I showed up 3 weeks later. Some did. Some in my division absolutely did. They were there and said, hey, I joined 2 weeks ago, right? Based on what happened in New York. And I was like, hey, good on you, bro. That's not why I joined.
Nope.
But I'm glad I did. I was never contracted to do anything outside of Aircrew. I was not supposed to be in the air rescue community. I wasn't supposed to be in any other special community, just Aircrew. My uncle, being my recruiter, he told me that you should go aviation because it's a really great field and you can do stuff at the airline. Me being 18 and dumb, I was just like, all right. So when I talked to the detailer who gave me my first job pick, I literally just said, I want to fly. The rest is history. I ended up going to the Aircrew candidate school. He asked me about Rescue Swimmer. He said it, I remember it like yesterday, even though it was 22 years ago almost. Rescue Swimmer or no? And I looked at him and I was like, what does swimming have anything to do with what I asked? I said, no. I said, do the Aircrew guys, do they fly? And he was just like, yeah. I was like, then that. So I ended up going to boot camp, which was just a regular boot camp division. There was no 800 divisions and special warfare, special operations divisions. It was strictly like you either were all male or you were integrated. I think there were a few like 900 divisions that were specialized with people who had marching band experience and all that crap. They were the ones who crushed you in the Captain's Cup. Probably still do, for all I know. It's been a while. So in boot camp, we still had projectors and transparency slides that they would go ahead and, have that thing project onto a wall. And I remember watching a video on those roll-in VCRs with the TV on top about where we were going after boot camp. So boot camp's almost over. There's a couple weeks left. And it's saying if you're going the aviation route, you're going to head to Pensacola, Florida. And then it talked about the maintenance rates and stuff like that, logistics rates that are there. And then it talked about the aircrew rate. It showed my job. It showed the aircrew wings and how we all go through aircrew candidate school. We learn basic water survival techniques, all this other stuff. Then it said for those additional they will go on to the Aviation Rescue Swimmer program. And I watched that. We got third class immediately out of A school, E4, if you will, for those, regardless of your branch or things like that. And E4 is still an E4. So to go from an E1 to E4 in 8 months is a pretty fast pace. So I saw money. I didn't really see any other challenge other than just money. So I did that. And I volunteered when I went to Pensacola. I did not know anything about the program. I didn't know anything about anything. And so, not saying this video is to make fun of the rest of the people in the military, because it's definitely not, but I'm going to say some things that some may find offended, some may find funny, some may just not completely get it at all. And it's things I talk about a lot with my own community and people who are like-minded individuals. But for the rest of us, aircrew specifically, and not even just aircrew, but air rescue versus the rest of us aircrewmen, we have a little, contentious relationship sometimes within ourselves. Although we may look the same in certain uniform items like dress uniforms or, certain flight suits, just doing, awards or, military boards. But our jobs is as polar opposite as, a doctor is from a submarine, somebody else to me. I understand we both fly an aircraft, but we don't do the same job whatsoever in those aircraft. We don't do it as long. We don't have the same stressors, the same pressure, the same anything. It is just a completely different job under the same umbrella. And so I wanted to talk about that briefly. Like I said, aircrewmen in general make up, I think there's about 3,000 something aircrewmen in the Navy, period. And, or just less than, or just over, something around the number 3,000. And like I said, that's air crewman. That's all the fixed wing guys and rotary wing and tilt rotor. Now, I'm not speaking for the Marines, air crew for any other branch, strictly Navy air crewman. Right now, we all wear these gold wings. If you missed it earlier and you're somehow in the middle of this video or wherever I'm at in this video, I wear these proudly. We have a creed. Anybody in a special program has any sort of creed. Everything that we do in the military is supposed to give you a sense of pride into that job. If I said, hey, I'm going to be your A school teacher, or I'm going to be your whoever instructor, and this job sucks, and you're going to get this and you're going to get that, you're not going to listen to anything I have to say, and I'm not going to get a very good return on my investment, obviously, from boot camp to having you graduate in that field. So the air crewmen would always like to sit there and tell us sea stories about what they did. And don't get me wrong, some of it was actually whack. And some of it was very exciting to hear. Very exciting. And the most exciting stuff for me to hear were all the guys from the helo community. So as I stated before, I was contracted as a dry air crewman. We call ourselves dry or wet. Wet for those who jump out of aircraft and get wet in the water. Should be pretty obvious. Those are all the air rescue guys. We used to have 3 communities. Now we only have 2. I'll speak about that in just a second. But I volunteered for SAR school when I got to aircrew school because at the time we were only 80% manned in that specific job field. I didn't know anything, like I stated, about it at all. I would even see them in San Diego flying around. I would see those helicopters fly around my high school in Imperial Beach. And I thought they were spying on us. I thought all kinds of crap. I used to call them the Army. Now that I know, since I've done that job, I was like, dang, that was just the Navy, helicopter community who gives 2 craps less what you're doing down there. Like, at all, right? But I volunteered because I was told I would not make it through that school in the first place because I was black. What? And that's not the first time in my life, but that's the first time in my adult life since I was only 18 and like 2.5 months old. Or 4 months old, 18 years, 4 months old. That was the first time in my adult life I was actually faced with challenge when it came to racism or any sort of prejudice against me as an individual off of something I have no control over. So it pissed me off bad enough to sign up for that program. And I remember signing up for that program like yesterday. I remember signing my name on the dotted line and then meeting people who came through aircrew and then were going through rescue swimmer school at that very moment and asking them how hard it was and what the challenges were. I'm really good friends with a buddy of mine right now who I spoke to. He had his little book he's studying and he's like, man, this is hard, man, this sucks, blah, blah, blah. And I'm over here, Like, man, did I mess up? Maybe I'm not going to do it. I do realize there's not a lot of black candidates at that school. Maybe for good reason. I'm over here psyching myself out. This whole time, mind you, I'm not even classed up for aircrew school. I'm still on hold to get through the aircrew pipeline, and I'm already trying to do the next pipeline. I do learn things along my career like that, but it came down to my graduation day at aircrew school. I remember they specifically said, hey, not everybody who asks to go to SAR school will go. There's not enough slots, blah, blah, blah. I swear I was sitting there praying like, please, I do not want to go to that school anymore. Nope. Just send me to the regular aircrew school. I'm fine with that. Well, that didn't happen. They called my name, and my whole career changed right then and there. I remember it like yesterday. It just completely did a 180. And from there, I marched down from the aircrew candidate schoolhouse all the way to SAR school, which is completely destroyed. That building had got destroyed by not one but two hurricanes back to back. 2004 Hurricane Ivan, 2005 Hurricane Dennis came and just leveled the rest of it. So we have a new schoolhouse that's across the street. But I remember that. My whole career changed as I was marching every step down that street to get to SAR school. My shirt stays, if you guys know what I'm talking about, it's like a freaking bed strap suspender that you wear between your shirt and your socks to hold your shirt down. My shirt stay popped, so it's hanging out the bottom of my pant leg. I'm nervous, my palms are sweaty, knees weak, arms are heavy, all that junk. And as I'm walking there, I'm thinking of everything that's going to go wrong. I'm thinking I'm going to drown. I'm thinking all these things are going to happen to me. But yet there was a certain moment when I stood, I just remember not caring anymore. I faced all the instructors. They were yelling at us. They were scuffing up our shoes. They were making fun of us. They were looking at our NATOPS jackets, seeing our history of our swim classes. Just whatever, random. Whatever you want to know about an individual at that time, you could look in their NATOPS jacket professionally. So they're making fun of me. I am the only black person in a group of probably 12 to 15 individuals. They're making fun of me about all that stuff. Oh, you think you can swim? You know what people who come here typically do? And I'm just sitting over there shaking my head. No chief, no petty officer, yes, or whatever. The question was fashion to me. And I can't stop forgetting what that one student, and it was a student who said, you're not going to make it through here because you're black and black people can't swim. I kept replaying that in my head every time. And I remember that was it. That was the change. And being from San Diego, people think that, you're from San Diego? You must wake up and then just start swimming every day. I was like, absolutely not. A lot of people in San Diego do not swim.
Nope.
It's nice and warm outside, but it's cold in the water. And not only that, there are other sports and things to do in San Diego than go to the beach and go to La Jolla or La Jolla for some of you who need it said like that. I think I've gotten in the ocean in San Diego 2 times my entire life before I joined the military. 2 or 3. And I'm not even playing. I've been in the beach. I've been in water, but I'm talking about San Diego specifically. And so, yeah, long story short, I went through that schoolhouse and I graduated with my very first class. I did not roll not one time. And then I kind of just sat around thinking, now what? My entire career shifted over a challenge. I was chasing money, but I actually found out I got challenged in the process. So I go through A school, which is advanced schooling. That's where you learn your actual job in the military. So being a rescue swimmer or air rescue candidate or whatever, that's just a qualification or designation that you get later on in your career. But your still main job is to be a Naval Aircrewman. I was rated, or I had the MOS of an aviation warfare systems operator. So I operated all the systems, whether it be acoustic, non-acoustic, crew serve weapons, lasers, forward-looking infrared. Now, I did not operate it directly all the time, but some of us did. And, we did a lot of air support for ground forces and stuff like that. Air support for surface vessels as well. Air support for our own entity. And that's what I kind of want to turn this off and kind of go to a different spot with this conversation, is the aircrew community is so broad. If you're in an aircraft and you're an enlisted person, you are an air crewman. Now, we do have a few like photographers back in the day and currently now mass communication specialists. We do have corpsmen that still fly with us. There are SAR medical technicians. They don't even make up, they are aircrew qualified, but they are not Naval Aircrewman currently as a rating. So being an aviation warfare systems operator back in, 2002. I got rated in 2002. And that was probably the coolest title I've ever heard. I thought it was better than anything anybody did in the military. Like if they say, hey, what's your job? And it's like aviation warfare systems operator. At that time, nothing against it, but if you asked a Navy SEAL what their job was, they would tell you they're a Navy SEAL and you understood that. That's like saying I'm a Naval Aircrewman. Like, well, I get that you're a SEAL, just like I'm an Aircrewman, but what is your job in that community? And then they say, oh, I'm a hull technician, or I'm a damage controlman, or I'm a corpsman, or I'm an intelligence specialist, or I'm a bosun's mate, but I'm a qualified combat diver SEAL. Now don't get me wrong, they had source ratings back then. They didn't do them. They had them for advancement purposes, but they were comms guys, they were snipers, they were breachers, basic assaulters, just like they are now, but they still had normal ratings. And I used to just think that was like weird, but hey, whatever. I started to think no one, and I still do in a lot of ways, still think nobody has a better job than what I had in the military. I don't care how many movies there are about it or not about it. I actually kind of like that because there's a certain level of ignorance that goes with people who watch one thing, they read one article, and then they have your entire career pegged. But at the same time, it's also very bothersome because there are real world consequences for fake news. And there are real world consequences for people who think they don't do this, don't call these guys. When it's like, no, actually we do that. And you probably should have called us. And the only way you would know that is if someone opened their freaking mouth like I am right now and saying, I can do this. So remember, the entire military, basic military, is not combative.
Nope.
I think it's over 80% of the entire military, regardless if you call us enlisted, officers, midshipmen, in any branch. We are 80% are strictly like maintenance ratings, maintenance MOSs, maintenance jobs, people who fix things, engineer levels. They fix like aircraft mechanics, diesel mechanic, Humvee mechanic, boat mechanic, like those type of jobs. That's the majority of what the military is. It is not anybody in an operator role. And I noticed that real fast. They put that stigma on them, and they put that stigma on us as well. And they said, hey, you're in the special operations community. I didn't understand what the hell that was. And sometimes I still don't. But I was like, what's that? You know what I mean? And so Aircrew, if I had to back up just a little bit, Aircrew as a whole is a special program. So anybody wearing Aircrew wings on their chest, specifically for the Navy, is in a special program. Because you can DOR, which means to drop on request. It is a volunteer job. It is not something that I get called in, and regardless, I have to do that for the next 4 to 6 years based on my contract. I can quit this job at any point based on the nature, stressors, and danger of this job. So, you can't have PTSD from your job and still do your job. Yes, I understand some conventional forces can probably get away with stuff like that, but by its very nature, we do not play that game. So that's what makes it a special program. Then you go down a small or narrower tunnel, and then you go into a special operations unit. And you say, what special operations? Well, if I had to break it down, people who do a special mission, get special training, work in special operations. It takes a special kind of individual to fulfill that role. Plain and simple. That's what it is. Now, some of us act like we're on meds and that we need special ed. I'm not going to deny that either. That is very true. But that's what makes a special operations unit or a special operations group or a special operations job special. It takes specialized training to do a special mission, to get special training, right? All that stuff. But it has to be a specialized individual who can do that. So that's what made special operations. Once again, I was kind of just already thrown into it, not as a naval air crewman, but as an air rescue swimmer or a helicopter rescue swimmer, an aviation rescue swimmer, an air rescue swimmer. We are known by many names. We all do the same crap. And we did it in multiple airframes. We did it in multiple platforms. My very first unit was a helicopter anti-submarine squadron 11. And my last unit was helicopter sea combat squadron 28. And people think you guys don't do anything combative related. You don't do anything, I haven't seen a book about you guys. I haven't seen you guys on a movie. I have, but there is not a lot about us because people don't know about us. Some people will go and run towards The Guardian with Kevin Costner and Ashton Kutcher and say, this is what you do. I'm like, yeah, kind of. Right? We are the air rescue swimmers in the Navy. We do the rescue swimmer portion like that. But because we're in the Navy, they squeeze every bit of that orange to get the juice out. So we're also the helicopter crew chief. We're the ones who are jumping the other guy out. It depends on which hat I'm putting on that day. Let's say today I'm the rescue swimmer. I can put this hat on. And the next day I'm the hoist operator. I'm going to take this hat off and put on a different hat. I'm still qualified to do what the other guy jumped out did. But maybe he's the junior person or the senior person. So based on that mission, I'm taking a back seat or I'm taking a front seat to that mission. We also do a lot of air support, close air support, more specifically for ground forces. We will do missions involving with direct action with ground support. We will do helicopter visit board search and seizure missions. We will do rescue element. So that's where people don't know what we do. Shit, we don't know what we do. If you just checked into this community and all you saw was a couple flyers on the military website and you're getting to your unit or you're still in training, this job has the potential to do a lot more for you than you ever thought of. I had no clue what I would be doing until I was actually put in a position to do it. We aren't kicking down doors and blowing up stuff or anything like that, but we still put ourselves in harm's way. And I actually have to say it just for my community, shout out to my community. I think we put ourselves in harm's way more than any other person in any other special operation. And that's just real. You can quote me on that. You can clip this video and say, can you believe what this freaking black dude said? This black dude said this? I'm like, yeah, I did. Whoever flies in any naval aircraft for an extended period of time, their job is exponentially more dangerous than someone walking around on the ground or driving a Humvee. Now, there are a handful of other mission people with different mission sets or skill sets that is dangerous. Even SDV guys, SEALs who take the delivery vehicle, the little SEAL submarine that they have to be in for hours. That is a dangerous experience by itself. I've never done it, never wanted to, will not do it, could not, would not in a Fox or with a box. Don't want it.
Nope.
But it's not a daily thing. It's something that you are specialized to do when you need to do it. But flying in an aircraft is a daily operation for me. And this is where I'm also going to have to take another step and say, you're flying in an aircraft that is actually managed and maintained and put together by a whole bunch of pissed off people who don't want to be there in the first place. And that is our maintenance support. They don't all feel this way, but I am thoroughly convinced over 21 and a half years of the military that majority, I'd say 80-something%, do not want to do it, and they don't want to do it for us. So you're always fighting this battle, right? There's a maintenance operations battle, and they're always telling us what we can and cannot do. Hey, can you put extra seats in the aircraft? Can you take these seats out of the aircraft? Can you wipe the oil down from the transmission so I can make sure it's not an active leak and it's not just residual from the heat and cold expanding at night? And getting flack for that makes you really think, like, no wonder your job is not special in that way. And so a lot of us in the Navy, specifically a really good friend of mine named Doug, if you ever watch this, Doug, thinking about you. my first deployment, I think I was on the ship for maybe a week, and he kept calling these people Teds. And I swear to God, one of these guys' names was Ted, like Theodore, right? And I found out it wasn't Ted at all.
Nope.
And he ended up saying, "Hey man, my name is not Ted." And he said, "Yeah, whatever, Ted." Now, of course, he was very arrogant, very cocky, very, very Doug-like, if you will. And I was like, "Hey man, what is a Ted?" And he kind of looked at me like,
What?
"Oh, you don't know? Well, let me explain what a Ted is to you." And he said, "Look at you. Tell me what your job is." And I said, "I'm an air crewman." He says, "Yeah, but how do I know that though?" And I said, "It's pretty freaking obvious. I'm in a flight suit, which I am different than 90-something% of the ship right now. Out of everybody on this aircraft carrier, I'm different than over 90% of them just being in this flight suit." And I said, "Not only that, I have a big set of gold wings on my chest." And then he said, "Exactly. So I could walk up to you right now and realize exactly what you do right now." He said, "But this guy standing in front of us and the guy standing behind us, based on what he's wearing, I have no clue what he does. He must be your typical enlisted dude." And that's where the acronym TED came. And it wasn't a bash on them, even though it definitely kind of sounded like that. It turns into a bash. Just give me a second. So, of course, we started calling them all TEDs, right? If I didn't know what your job was right off the rip of looking at you in uniform, you were a TED. And we started breaking TEDs down by nationality and, boy or girl, whether they were in shape or out of shape. So we started calling TEDs everything from, your standard Caucasus Mountain Anglo-Saxon white Ted was just named Theodore. And I thought that was actually hilarious. So it was easy. It was kind of like we had our own little brevity. So if I said, "Hey man, you see Theodore at 2:00, the tall Theodore, blah, blah, blah." And yeah, we all knew exactly who you're talking about. Then Theodore turned into Theodorus Africanus. Those were all the black Teds. And then all of the Asian Pacific Islander, if they had a very Asian, dominant features, they were just called Theodang Wang. Any Latin American Ted, regardless of where they were from, was called Theodores. Any fat Ted was called a Teddy. Females were also Teds too. It didn't matter. Typical enlisted dude or dudette. And eventually it got to the point where it really felt like we were just making, just tossing out racial slurs to people. But it did make sense. Because if I was like, "Hey man, you see that tall guy, it's like, we do it no different now. It's like, "Hey, you see that Asian guy right there? Yeah, him. That's the guy you need to talk to about whatever it may be," or past him. We would just say Theodang Wayne. But it also kind of opened my eyes to what special operations and special, programs, special warfare, special forces, they all have something about them in uniform, whether it's badges, colors of their badge, berets, color of a beret, patches, flight suit wearing like pilots, crewmen, that make them stand out. Remember, specialized people who do specialized training for specialized missions also get to wear specialized badges, warfare devices, and things like that. So it's pretty obvious what I wear. It's on my freaking hat right now. Big set of gold wings. I think at one point back in the day, they used to be silver for enlisted, kind of like the SEAL Trident used to be silver for enlisted, until one day they were like, "Nope, gold across the board, enlisted or officer." And that's kind of where the aircrew wings continue to stay gold. And yeah, so when you look at anybody in the Navy special operations community or the special warfare community, you do see divers, right? I can look at somebody and say, "That person's a diver." How do you know? It's pretty freaking obvious. Now, if you're in any training pipeline, you're a straight up TED. So that's pretty obvious too. But once you graduate and you get your dive bubble and, you're a master diver and all these senior, different levels to being in your community, I can see that. You in uniform, I don't have to ask you, I wonder what your job is. I know what a Navy diver is when I see one. I know what a Navy EOD technician is when I see one. They've got their crab, basic tech, senior tech, master tech. You have your special boat team guys, right? Your SWIT guys. They have their big... Well, they took the waves off, thank God, because it looked stupid. But they have their sword and musket or flintlock with a boat in the middle, and then they have like different stars and crap on top of it for different levels of being an SBT guy. And then of course you have your SEALs. They wear their big gold trident, and it's pretty obvious. Like when I walk around and I work with these guys during different missions, when we're on our actual, like, you know, playing Navy uniform, it's like, yep, boat guy, team guy, tech, diver, air rescue, or, you know, aircrew guy. Like, we're all around, and it's pretty obvious what we do. But then you always have that one support dude who shows up and we're like, who's this Ted, right? Because we don't know what he does. Like, and it doesn't mean that we crap on Teds. There's way too many. You know, we would lose a fight to him. But it started to just make special operations, special warfare, and special forces make more sense to me as an individual. And I can go ahead and talk about a lot of my experiences if you guys are interested in stuff like that. I would love to. Not so I can just be a bird, but I do want to speak up for my community a lot more than it has been. Like I said earlier at the beginning of this, a lot of people think they know about a job and they don't know a damn thing about it. And so, yeah, if you have any questions about anything I've done, real world training, let me know. Put it down in the comment section. If you're just breezing through, cool, welcome. If you're bored, you had this video on freaking autoplay, thanks for watching. Either way, but yeah, I'll get into a lot of the high risk things that we do, and, you know, on the unfortunate mishaps that were, you know, where a lot of us lost our life in this job, and things like that, because a lot of people, like I said, do not know what we actually do. They just see one phase of something and then they assume they know it all, and they don't know anything. Either way, that's my video for the day. Let me know what you guys think. Give it a like if you like it. Even if you don't like it, at least give it a downvote so I can see how I'm engaging with my audience. And real talk, I don't really care if you're not a subscriber, if you like or dislike it. If you can subscribe to my channel and you like or dislike it, that would tell me something more, because I can see the analytics on my channel. Either way, I'm out. Peace.